Investicioni forum o Zapadnom Balkanu na kojem su učestvovali i predstavnici Crne Gore održan je 24. februara u Londonu. Forum je organizovala Evropska banka za obnovu i razvoj, a okupio je premijere zemalja Zapadnog Balkana kako bi bile predstavljene investicione i poslovne mogućnosti regiona u kontekstu privlačenja direktnih stranih investicija i saradnje na prekograničnim projektima.
Now, this region has been a very important area of EBRD engagement since the early 1990s, when it embarked on the road towards open market economies and democracy. Today, the EBRD remains one of the largest institutional investors in the region. In 2013 alone, the bank invested over 1.2 billion euros in nearly 80 projects in the Western Balkans in Croatia. In implementing its unique transition mandate, EBRD is working both with the public and private sectors and across all the economic sectors, infrastructure, energy, financial institutions, and also with foreign and local private companies. The latter includes small and medium-sized enterprises, which are the real backbone of this region's economy and which provide the largest share of employment in the region. The bank has just approved a small business initiative which aims to marry money with the sort of expertise that businesses need to tap into. The Small Business Initiative is designed to achieve maximum impact by combining financing and policy dialogue at country level, improved coordination between the international financial institutions in this area, and engagement of co-financiers. We're committed, really committed, to investing in all countries of the region and to supporting their economic development. At the same time, in coordination with the European Union, we seek to promote regional cooperation in the Western Balkans because this is absolutely indispensable for its sustainable development and stability. Now, of course, international financial institutions are also working together to support vital transport and energy linkages, and I'll come back to this. But the regional approach also applies to pooling together co-financiers to create regional investment vehicles. Now, one example of this approach is a new enterprise and expansion fund, which I'll be signing later today with the European Investment Fund, EIF, and Germany's DEG. This fund is a critical component of the regional Western Balkans SME platform called the Enterprise Development and Innovation Facility. We launched this facility together with the EU, the EIF, donors, and all countries of operations in the region to provide SMEs with a complete toolbox of financial support, including venture capital, private equity, and credit enhancement mechanisms for commercial banks, but also a comprehensive regional policy dialogue instrument. Now, intensifying regional cooperation is one of the greatest achievements of this region, a demonstration of the new vision of its political leaders who are with us today. The main objective of this conference is to promote the Western Balkans as an investment destination. Now, during my first year in office as the EBRD president, I had the opportunity to visit every single country in the region. It's a fascinating region, and there is a great deal of potential there, including, first and foremost, a well-educated population, and a great, with strong skills and entrepreneurial spirit, and a very diverse range of natural resources. The EBRD is a bank, and we wouldn't have invested in this region so heavily had we not been convinced of its potential. But along with significant potential for further growth, I've also observed during my visits a number of bottlenecks in infrastructure and the business environment. Ways of breaking down these bottlenecks will be the main topics at today's forum. Transport corridors, energy links, these are crucial for the development of the region. They can open up the free flow of commerce, increase competitiveness, and opportunities for export growth.
None of the Western Balkans is a functioning market economy. Unemployment across the region is high. The young are particularly affected. Public deficit and debt levels have been increasing, and the external situation is vulnerable in many countries of the region. Competitiveness is often hindered through politicization of decisions that should be market-oriented or market-driven. These problems should be addressed through a credible reform agenda coupled with ample funds from the private and public sector. Reforms of public finances and of labor market institutions and reduction of administrative burdens for businesses should be priorities. And investments in education, skills, and research also need to be high on the agenda. The rule of law is particularly relevant in terms of legal certainty and investors' confidence, and hence key for economic reform. Investment will only happen if the countries improve the investment climate and create the conditions for sustainable growth necessary to create new jobs, the conditions to help attract foreign direct investments, the conditions in which businesses can be competitive and thrive, and the conditions that will reignite the spirit of your entrepreneurs and SMEs. I encourage all you investors here today to take this opportunity to set out the areas on which you would want government to focus to make the investment climate in the Western Balkan region more attractive.
Premijer Milo Djukanovic je poručio da države regiona, da bi bile konkurentnije i produktivnije, moraju ići odlučnije u radikalnije strukturne reforme. U prvom redu, smatra Djukanovic, potrebno je reformisati neodržive penzijske sisteme. Kazao je i da se moraju brže otklanjati prepreke biznisu te stvarati ambijent za nova porodična, mala i srednje preduzeća. Naveo je i da je nedovoljno razvijena saobraćajna infrastruktura u ovom trenutku ograničenje razvoja Crne Gore.
I believe that the Western Balkans can be the most dynamic part of Europe in terms of development. Of course, if the EU devotes to this essentially with more trust and less administrative and bureaucratic arbitration, economic development is a precondition for faster economic change and strengthening institutions and the rule of law for life under European standards. This is the formula for the permanent stability of the Balkans, and that's the best contribution to European security. We do not want anybody from Europe to do for us what we have to do in order for the region to become more competitive and more productive. Our countries can do much more. We have to be more decisive in more radical structural reform, be braver in facing weaknesses, and define more effective social and economic policies. We need to reform our untenable and unsustainable pension system first and foremost. Then free the labor market of cumbersome regulation. And we have to adjust the educational system to the needs of the labor markets. And in the field of health, the private sector should provide better protection. We have to remove obstacles to business faster, create an environment for small businesses, family businesses. And international indicators warn that our region, despite the progress recorded in the past year, is not the most attractive place for business. We have to change our regulation and our mindsets decisively, and we have to abandon the practice of slow decision-making. We have to build new culture in the public administration when it comes to attitudes towards business. Better economic cooperation and integration of the region is the safe path to development. A prerequisite for that is also the improvement of transport infrastructure and connections on the regional market. Montenegro is interested in relaunching negotiations with the countries managing the rivers flowing through neighboring countries, building hydropower plants in our country and foreign and neighboring countries that will be of mutual interest. In order to achieve these goals, the EU role, in addition to our efforts, is necessary, and also the role of international financial institutions such as the EBRD, and has to be a prerequisite for our economic power. And without that support, poor infrastructure links is a problem that no country in the region can resolve on its own. That's why we need resources from stable financial mechanisms of the European Union and European financial institutions, European Investment Bank and the EBRD, that would enable joint strategies and create preconditions for constructing important road, railroad and energy corridors. That would be the safest guarantee of permanent political stability in this part of the European continent and the democratic development of the region. We are sure that all of us have a vision, and we have also common strategic goals, and it would be best to pick the best strategies together and find the ways to implement them together. We cannot expect to build everything at once and to immediately make up for everything we lost throughout history.
Na forumu u Londonu prisustvovali su i premijeri iz regiona, srpski Ivica Dacic, hrvatski Zoran Milanovic, kosovski Hašim Tači, makedonski Nikola Gruevski i albanski Edi Rama, kao i preduzetnici i čelnici međunarodnih kompanija. Oni su razgovarali o uslovima i klimi za investiranje, snabdijevanju energijom, infrastrukturi i trgovinskoj integraciji.
I will not dwell much on Croatia because you know us well. We've been through to the longest, harshest, most scrutinizing negotiation process in the history of EU. It was for the better, I believe, because it spurred and triggered some reforms, actually legal changes that were inevitable, but for which we lacked courage, determination, and audacity, if you wish. Now they are in the place. And it's not reform yet. Reform is the point at which you agree and you come to terms with yourself that you have to live by those rules, apply them on a daily basis, kind of automatically. And that's the point I make all the time in Croatia, not to the detriment of my predecessors, of my government, that actually all that huge harmonization of the legislation is still short of merit to be called reform. It's legal harmonization. Reform starts now. We have to change, and we have to change hard.
Allow me to be quite honest with you and frank with you. None of it will be realized unless there is political and regional safety and security in the region. Nobody wants to invest in an unstable region. Let's not read fairy tales here. The investors are not humanitarian workers. The investors want the profit. They want their interests to be achieved. And no one will invest in unstable regions.
Kosovo is a new state, but with a huge potential. It has huge potentials in energy, mining, and tourism. Over the past few years, the government of Kosovo has completed great capital projects, including the construction of the highway connecting Kosovo to Albania, as well as the construction of the international airport of Pristina. We are on the verge of beginning the construction of the new highway connecting Kosovo to Macedonia, and soon we will organize the tendering procedure for Brezovica project, which is a tourist resort of international dimensions. It is a skiing resort. Those successes were unimaginable only a few years ago for Kosovo. 15 years have passed since NATO's intervention. And since then, Kosovo has managed to functionalize, to put into operation a free market economy and to become a serious partner for the region and beyond.
Na marginama Londonskog foruma Djukanovic se sastao sa predsjednikom EBRD Sumom Chakrabartijem. Na sastanku je još jednom konstatovano da Crna Gora i Evropska banka za obnovu i razvoj imaju uzornu i transparentnu saradnju. Prema riječima Chakrabartija, Crna Gora može da posluži kao model uspješne realizacije projekata. Djukanovic je istakao da podrška Crnoj Gori, ali i ključnim investitorima čiji se projekti realizuju u našoj zemlji, predstavlja snažan podsticaj razvoju crnogorske ekonomije. Na sastanku je dogovoren nastavak saradnje Crne Gore i EBRD-a kroz podršku brojnim projektima u oblasti energetike, poljoprivrede i turizma, a intenzivirat će saradnju i u procesu reformi finansijsko-bankarskog sektora i unapređenja regulative.
President EBRD said that relation between Montenegro and EBRD are an example, a positive example, to be followed in the region. In 2013, we invested more than 80 million euro. The pipeline for 2014 is between 150 and 200 million. I think is, considering the dimension of the country, is a very important. But what is really important is the positive relation in the sense that together we are looking at the issue related in the country, like non-performing loans, etc., and we are trying to tackle this element. I'm convinced that Montenegro has let me say, not really a pink future in front, but almost pink, if there is certain decision that will be taken soon, and the country has the potential to become easily one of the most healthy countries of the region.
Djukanovic je na marginama konferencije razgovarao i sa Gaetanom Masarom, izvršnim direktorom za jugoistočnu Evropu kompanije General Electric, koja je iskazala interesovanje za saradnju sa vladom u oblasti istraživanja nafte i gasa, kao i u drugim oblastima proizvodnje energije. Vjetroelektrane na Krnovu, koje će isporučiti i instalirati francuska kompanija, koristit će turbine General Electrica. Renomirana kompanija iz Sjedinjenih Američkih Država zainteresovana je da našim inženjerima ponudi sticanje ekspertskih znanja na svojim institutima u Italiji, a na sastanku je dogovoren nastavak saradnje i intenzivna komunikacija kompanije i Ministarstva ekonomije. Crnogorska delegacija bila je jedna od najbrojnijih. U radu foruma učestvovali su i ministri ekonomije i održivog razvoja i turizma Vladimir Kavaric i Branimir Gvozdenovic.
Drago mi je da konstatujem i da primitimo da se u regionu sve više prepoznaje ono što jeste bila naša, da kažemo, deviza po tom pitanju, da zemlje iz regiona su mnogo manje konkurenti jedna drugo, a mnogo više svi zajedno možemo da konkurentujemo nekim drugim investicionim destinacijama, investicionim regionima u svijetu i sa toga aspekta zaista mislim da ovakvi skupovi predstavljaju snažan posticaj takvom vrstu razumijevanja regiona i pored toga mi već i u ovoj fazi imamo puno tih, da kažemo, integracionih procesa, počev od CEFTA i tako dalje, raznih inicijativa po kojima granice između zemalja u regiona u smislu, da kažemo, protoka roba, kapitala, ideja i svega toga prestaju da budu problem. I zaista mislim da sa jačanjem tih procesa, a kako budu odmicali ovi procesi, ne samo integracijni, nego ekonomski, mislim da ćemo po tom pitanju imati puno više progresa. Kao što vidimo, postoji veliki broj projekata koji se prirodno ne završavaju na granicama zemalja i sa toga aspekta zaista smo upućeni da sarađujemo jedni s drugima i vidimo da isti takav, da kažem, uvijek odgovor dobijamo i sa druge strane, kad kažem druge strane, mislim na druge zemlje regiona. Crna Gora, ja mislim, sa projektom kabla postaje energetsko čvorište regiona, to je perspektive koje, odnosno mogućnosti koje nudi ovaj kabel su tolike velike da zaista Crna Gora postaje čvorište regiona. Samim tim ono što možemo da uradimo mi u Crnoj Gori, ono što bi trebale sve zemlje regiona da iskoriste kao svoju prednost jeste da izgradnjom ovoga kabla sve investicije u energetske sektore u ovom dijelu svijeta dobijaju značajno atraktivnosti. Ono što moramo dalje da radimo jeste da dalje radimo, znači kad kažem sa državnog nivoa, jeste dalje radimo sa zemljama iz okruženja na unapređivanju ovoga energetske mreže. Znači već smo to uradili sa Albanijom i očekujemo nastavak procesa, da kažem, srednjoročno i sa Bosnom i sa Srbijom, i ono što možemo da radimo jeste da svako od nas sam za sebe projekte koji su na stolu, koji su na raspolaganju, stavlja u funkciju i obezbeđuje njegovu realizaciju.
Mislim da je izuzetno važna i korisna konferencija koja usmjerava određene stvari. Za crnogorski turizam koji se razvija jako brzo i jako kvalitetno, jako je važna regionalna komponenta. Preko 30% turista su prisutni sa prostora regiona i smatramo da je ključna stvar da promovišemo Crnu Goru kao kvalitetnu turističku destinaciju, ali i kao destinaciju do koje se lako dolazi. Jedno od ključnih aspekata koji sam razgovarao sa svojim kolegama iz regiona jeste kako da poboljšamo dostupnost ka Crnoj Gori i na taj način obezbijedimo još veću konkurentnost turističke ponude. Postoji spremnost čitavog regiona da zajednički radimo na infrastrukturnim projektima kako s aspekta saobraćajne dostupnosti u dijelu drumskog saobraćaja, tako i u dijelu avio saobraćaja. Crna Gora je prepoznata u čitavom regionu kao jedan od turističkih lidera i izuzetno im je bilo zanimljivo da prepoznaju način kako realizujemo značajne investicione projekte i kako smo uspjeli za kratko vrijeme da poboljšamo svoj investicioni ambijent. Spremni smo da sva ta iskustva podijelimo sa njima jer smatramo da ukupan regionalni razvoj je nešto što ide u korist i razvoju Crne Gore kao značajne turističke destinacije. Razgovaramo o raznim projektima koji treba da stvore još bolju infrastrukturu, da treba da stvore još bolju konkurentnost regiona i da otvaramo zajednički tržišta koja su daleko od nas sada.
Za ubrzanje rasta recept su bolja ekonomska saradnja i integracija među državama regiona. Ekipa naše televizije bila je u Londonu i u razgovoru sa zvaničnicima, privrednicima i investitorima istraživala kako je moguće saradnju dodatno osnažiti.
We have excellent relations, but it's not enough. We need to make the best to cooperate in another level, and for this, of course, we need partners. We cannot do it alone, and we are working very closely with Prime Minister Djukanovic and government to government to guarantee that common project of common interest, like the Adriatic-Ionian highway, for example, but also others, get the right attention, and of course, based on the right attention, we get the right financing.
Mislim da EBRD napravio dobru stvar što je okupio zemlje Zapadnog Balkana, posebno što je doveo glavne ljude, premijere, ministre i ljude koji odlučuju o nekim investicijama. Svi premijeri koji su govorili, govori su im bili slični i problemi koji imaju u svojim zemljama bili su im slični. To je znači velika nezaposlenost, nizak životni standard, velika glad za stranim investicijama, skupa energija, slaba povezanost sa regionom i slaba komunikacija između zemalja u okruženju. I pokušali su da na ovoj konferenciji svako predstavi svoju zemlju, da pokaže prednosti u kojima se može ulagati. Pozvali su strane investitore i svaki od njih su nudili različite, da kažem, povlastice radi ulaganja u svojim zemljama. Međutim, jasno se vidjelo da region Balkana bez dobre komunikacije sa Evropom i bez velikih finansijskih sredstava ne može se brzo integrisati. To je posebno premijer Djukanovic danas u svom govoru direktno rekao, ako hoćete brži put u Evropu i da ovaj region bude brže sastavljen dio Evrope, morate više da ulažete, morate vaše birokratske barijere da smanjite i morate sa svojim znanjem i iskustvom i sa ekspertima da pomogne Zapadnom Balkanu da se što brže integriše. Crna Gora nameće se geostrateški kao država koja preko mora i preko dobre komunikacije sa susedima može da bude i tranzitni i energetski centar, da kažem, jugoistočne Evrope, posebno Zapadnog Balkana. Nama su potrebni putevi, nama je potrebna infrastruktura, potrebni su nam novi aerodromi i normalno potrebni su nam velika ulaganja u turizam, a posebno u hotele i rezorte visoke kategorije.
Mi smo napravili dosta što se vidjelo i na današnjem panelu da je Crna Gora napravila zaista puno posebno u turizmu i u energetici, to jest sa kablom koji je upravo u izradi prema Italiji, energetskim kablom, kao i sa velikim brojem projekata u turizmu. Svakako da su ovakve konferencije vrlo značajne i sama konferencija pokazuje koliko je Crna Gora interesantna i za Evropu i za region. Svakako da je saradnja zemalja u regionu svakim danom sve bliskija i da kažem sve te nesuglasice koje su bile prosto ne shvatamo da su iza nas i da moramo sve tješnje da sarađujemo, što je u stvari budućnost regiona, da se povezujemo i da budemo što bliski. A što se tiče investicija u Crnoj Gori, ja mislim da je vrlo značajna investicija u turizmu i u obnovljivim izvorima energije, da su to vrlo značajne investicije.
First of all, I'm very impressed about the possibility here to listen to the other countries in the Western Balkan. What is also impressive is that more or less the benefits or even the burden is allocated to the countries in a similar way. So when I'm listening what in Macedonia or in Albania or in other countries happening, it's very much similar to what we face in Montenegro. So the topics are also very similar. So Montenegro has to focus on their own assets, and that's one of the topics I'm representing here, the Foreign Investor Council of Montenegro, where we are especially focusing on what we can do better in order to attract foreign investment, which fits to what Montenegro can offer to the foreign investors as well. And I was a bit encouraged so far because in the other countries the topics are very similar. So everybody is talking about agriculture, about the country as such, about energy, so flooding some valleys, let's say, and then producing hydro energy. So there is pretty much the same. So we have to concentrate really on the benefits we can offer in Montenegro, and we have to simply do things better than all the others. So it's like competition, it's a race. It's not whether you like it, what you do, it's the question whether it's better than the others. And there we will focus even more. I think the government is doing already quite a lot, but this topic of being better than the surrounding countries is also a topic which we have to focus on.
Each country should try, in conjunction with the others, to play to their strengths. So if we talk about Montenegro, we're thinking, I think, a lot about energy and transportation, shipping, but also the tourism industry, and trying to build a regional strategy around those sort of initiatives, but within the context of a wider regional play, where we have a large regional market which is comparable to very many countries in Europe. There aren't many bigger countries than the collective populations that are represented here today by the Prime Minister. So, yeah, I think that there has to be some element of specialisation in that, but overall, many of the points are already there on the table. I think it's just about making it a bit more collected and enacting some of the initiatives.
It's true that the regional approach is what could make the region a much more interesting market and also could enhance a certain capacity of investment. What is, in my opinion, need to be done is to select 2 or 3 main projects in terms of infrastructure, like transport of goods, but also transport of energy, etc., and to use this as platform for a more integrated and strong cooperation among the countries. Because an economical approach, a regional economic approach, is the ones that could really foster the development of the region. Not each of the countries of the region could afford big investment in infrastructure, etc. And of course, there is a need to do prioritization of investment. I think that, for example, a typical example like the Trans-Adriatic highway connecting Albania to Montenegro to Bosnia and then connecting with the Croatian network is a typical example of what needs to be followed and focused by the region. It's clear that Montenegro, in particular, talking about the energy sector, could become in the near future the construction of a connection to Italy is something that is starting right now. It's clear that is an important element. What is needed, if you want, is to strongly support the investment in new generation capacity in the country, because for the time being, when the cable will be completed, if there is not new generation capacity in Montenegro, this cable will only bring energy produced in Serbia or in Bosnia. It is important to use this year of the construction of the cable to enhance with mini hydro, focusing in particular on renewable energy. Montenegro has a lot of potential, in particular for hydropower and wind, and as EBRD we are focusing on that, hoping to be able to finance new projects that will bring a better situation, because it's important that Montenegro will be ready to be able to sell energy when the cable will be realized.
Italijanski investitori značajni su za Crnu Goru kroz svoje već realizovane, ali i najavljene investicije. Njihova iskustva u našoj zemlji govore da smo ostvarili značajan napredak, ali i da prostora za poboljšanje poslovnog ambijenta još uvijek ima.
I think it's a tough experience because the rule, the regulation, the law are different from Italy. I come from Italy, so I'm still learning. But what can I say? That I think EPCG can be one of the major players of Balkans, and to do that, we have to improve a part that is not exactly started now, which is energy management, trading, and so on. Because if in the future, when we have the cable and the HV line to the Serbia, I think we can do a lot of job for us and for Montenegro itself. And we have to start with the unbundling of distribution to be sure that the market will be open in the next future. And I'm not so worried about, let me say, generation. Generation is a matter, if you look at Europe, it's a matter of that has been closed, let me say, because, but for sure we need some more power, because we have some possibility. I'm talking about hydro, but also thermal, if you are able to reach the goal that the agreement between the shareholders are signed. It's not so easy, but I think if all the people do their best, we can do. But I think it's, let me say, a blue future for Montenegro. In this moment, people doesn't understand which is the benefits. And the reason is that you have to change the mind of people. Energy is like any other, let me say, goods. If you want to have, you have to pay. This is the problem. And in Montenegro, we have a lot of clients that with bills, with debts, which is incredible. I try to solve this problem. Why? Because if they don't pay energy, all the other has to pay for them. This is the reason. And I try to do that in a proper way, without any strange action. But I try to convince people that this is not a matter of EPCG. This is a matter of Montenegro. If there are people that don't pay energy, all the other has to pay for them. This is the problem. I think I'm thinking about a communication program, but I need some time for that. But I think this is very important. I have to divide into items. The first item is professional skill. I think we have good professional skill. This is the first matter. Second matter is management skill. We are very poor of managers. They are not used to take responsibility. It's common to find people in my office asking for a commission, 4 or 5 people. They are put in charge of some problem. Usually the problem is in charge of one manager. They try to solve it, maybe talking with some other. So this is the main important thing for me.
Crna Gora je uradila puno toga. Ovih dana se stalno pominje, jutro smo čuli od premijera Dacića, znači kako je izvoz Srbije pojačao. Najveći dio tog izvoza, znači koji ide iz Srbije, ide preko Crne Gore, preko Luke Bar. 90% izvoza Fiatovih vozila ide preko te luke. Tako da ja mislim da je Crna Gora i njen sistem, lučki i saobraćajni sistem, uspio da dokaže da puno toga znači, može da se odradi. Što se energetike tiče, Crna Gora je uspjela da privuče jednu veliku investiciju kao što je investicija Terne i koja je strateška investicija ne samo zbog spajanja Crne Gore i Italije i tih energetskih tokova, nego regionalno, znači za energiju koja se proizvodi u kompletnom regionu i koja ide prema Italiji. Tako da mislim da je puno toga urađeno. Sigurno je da uvijek može bolje, ali ja mislim da je Crna Gora na dobrom putu. Ja bih se koncentrirao sada na jednu inicijativu koja je jako značajna, koju planiramo u Crnoj Gori, i to je organizacija regionalne konferencije u oblasti energetike. Upravo pošto je investicija Ternina jedna najznačajnijih u istočnoj Europi, znači mislimo da je Crna Gora znači, pravo mjesto znači, gdje bismo mogli da organizujemo regionalnu konferenciju, znači, gdje bi svi regionalni subjekti, znači ovi partneri, znači, mogli da nastupe i da vide znači, potencijal tog kabla, a i da upoznaju znači, italijansku privredu i ne samo italijansku privredu sa potencijalom razvoja u regionu. Znači, region kao takav znači, ima ogroman potencijal razvoja znači energetike, tako da mislim da će to biti jako, jako uspješno i to planiramo u drugoj polovini godine. Što se tiče malih i srednjih preduzeća, isto tako planiramo jednu konferenciju u Crnoj Gori gdje bi promovisali sistem Crne Gore, privredni sistem Crne Gore i prezentovali taj sistem italijanskim privrednicima.
Evropska banka za obnovu i razvoj, koja je na Zapadnom Balkanu prisutna od 90. godina prošlog vijeka, danas predstavlja jednog od najvećih pojedinačnih institucionalnih investitora u svakoj od zemalja regiona. U prethodnih 7 godina EBRD je podržala 39 projekata sa preko 340 miliona eura, koji su mobilisali ukupne investicije u javnom i u privatnom sektoru od preko 800 miliona eura. Iste institucije poručuju da ni u buduće pomoć neće izostati.